Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. And our first story will tell us about how the loss of only one employee can be a pain in the butt for the boss. Join our channel if you're new here. And here we go. Tell me to find another job after asking for a raise? Will do. I started working for a small business when I was 20. Fast forward 5 years and I'm practically running the place with just the general manager and assistant manager above me. The GM leaves, so the assistant manager takes over naturally. I waited 5 weeks for the owner to promote me to assistant manager. It never came, yet my list of responsibilities grew and grew. We never hired anyone to take on my role, and we never hired anyone to replace another coworker who'd left a few months prior. We are so badly understaffed that it got to the point where if I didn't show up to work, the only person that could open the business was the owner himself. That was not standard, as he's been semi-retired for 20 years. He only comes in to check on things and pay the bills about 5 hours a week at his desk. I was making $12 an hour. 5 weeks after the GM left, I told the boss I wanted $15 an hour. Not unreasonable, considering the general manager was making $20 an hour and the assistant manager was making $18 an hour, both with full health insurance benefits. I was not receiving health insurance through the business at the time. Anyway, it took my boss 5 weeks to get back to me. He kept ducking me. If you're keeping track, it's now been 10 weeks since the general manager left, and I still don't have a raise. When we finally have our sit-down, he offers me $14 an hour, but promises to give me a raise to $15 in a year. I explained to him that $15 an hour was more than fair, considering I don't need to be on the health insurance plan. He said the business was doing badly, and that's all he could afford. For the record, the business was doing poorly compared to the previous year, but $75K or so had just cleared up on his payroll, so cry me a effing river. I told him Walmart is hiring cashiers for $13 an hour, Target for $14 an hour, and another local supermarket chain for $14. We're on the coast where the living wage is $19 plus an hour, so don't crap your britches, Midwest/Southern peeps. I flat out said, why would I want to keep managing a business for $14 an hour when I can stock shelves at the grocery store for $14? He kept his cool for the most part, but was visibly upset. He said, look, we just don't pay that much here. If you want to make that much, then go work for those people. Okay, you got it. I gave him an extremely generous 60-day notice. I needed to save a little more and didn't want to leave my coworkers hanging. I also wanted to see if he'd budge. He didn't. During this time, I expected to train a new employee. Never happened. He never hired anyone. Fast forward a few weeks after my departure, the boss himself has to work part-time to make up for my hours. He's now clocking in 20 hours a week after going 20 years without working a 9-to-5. My old coworkers tell me he's miserable. I feel kind of bad because at the end of the day, he was nice enough, but I'm not going to let myself get taken advantage of. Anyway, they called me just a few days ago and wanted to know if I wanted to work the summer, our busy season. I explained that I have 5 years of experience in this field and left as an acting assistant manager. So if you want to hire me seasonally, you're going to have to pay me $17.50 an hour. The manager told me they couldn't afford that much. I said if you want to hire a high school kid for minimum wage during the busy season, then go for it. Have fun training them. If you want to hire someone with years of experience that's already trained, you'll have to pay me $17.50 an hour. He never got back to me. I'm currently making $18 an hour at another small business. Maybe you shouldn't tell a valuable employee to find another job when they ask for a reasonable raise. Their loss. And our next story. Seriously upcharged a guy that upcharged my parents. My parents were renovating their house about a year ago, and they needed an electrician to move some lighting fixtures. Generally, I have a friend that's my go-to electrician for stuff like this, but my parents had hired a guy to paint the living room and needed this done quickly. My electrician friend happened to be on vacation, so he wouldn't be able to come out to me until after the painter was already scheduled to come. After referring with a couple of other friends, they recommended an electrician. We're all from the same country and happen to emigrate to the same small town, so people within our culture generally recommend other people from that same country. The electrician comes by for a quote. I never met this individual, and he tells my parents that it's all based on the amount of time it would take and that he can't give them an exact quote because he doesn't know how much time it's going to take until the job is already started. My parents think this sounds reasonable and end up hiring him. Just as an aside, I installed Nest cameras from my parents in their living room facing the front door, so we had a good view of the area where the job was being performed. This job takes him about an hour, and he literally sat on my couch on his phone for about 5 hours, watching TV, kicking his feet up, waiting for my mom to get home so that he could show her the work is complete, and charge her like 6 hours for a job that took him about an hour, which I confirmed how unprofessional his behavior was on my Nest cam. My parents didn't want to cause any friction, so they paid him for the amount of time he charged them. I believe it was like $500 for something that should really cost like $150 or so. Anyway, the lighting fixtures were installed. He received his check and went on his merry way. My electrician friend later confirmed that this guy had seriously upcharged my parents. A few months later, I decided to take a side gig selling solar as a 1099 employee. I was making decent money at my existing job, but I had a wide enough network where I could help people around me with generally good solar deals and make some good money for myself on the side. The company I connected with would give me my price on panels, including installation, as well as on the roof if a roofing job was required. My price was extremely good, and the way I made my money was by tacking on my fee at the end, built into the roof price and the per-watt price of the panels plus installation. Much like my parents found the electrician, this same electrician, who I had never met, found me, inquiring about a roofing job. I told him that I don't do standalone roofs, but that I could package something for him, including solar, which would get rid of most of his electricity bill. He said he didn't have the money up front for the roof or the panels, which is fine because we can finance, and it started to sound like he was a little bit desperate as his roof was leaking and he didn't have the capital to fix it. Generally, when I go to a client, I try to keep the price down and make it more desirable for the client. I'd rather make less money than no money, so I generally make around $3,000 to $5,000 per install, which is a win-win. When I got the call, I thought the guy's name was familiar, and sure enough, it was the electrician who'd helped my parents and left a bad taste in my mouth. At this point, I knew he was desperate for a resolution to his roof issue, and I knew he barely spoke any English, so my word was going to be gold. I set up an appointment to go meet up with him in about a week. I knew that I was going to upcharge the crap out of him due to the language barrier he would have with other installers, his desperation, and the fact that he upcharged my parents. I got the price quote from the installer that said the roof would cost about $10,000 for a strip and re-roof. This was a really good house, as the house was a multi-family unit, and I was expecting the quote to come in around $15,000. They also gave me the price on the solar panels, which would be around $15,000. So the price I was looking at for this project was $25,000. Generally, on a good situation like this, I might have called in $29,000 total, got him a spectacular deal, make a couple grand, and call it a day. But I was thinking, F this guy. So I adjusted the cost of the roof to $19,000 and the price of the panels to $21,000, half expecting that I would eventually need to come down on the pricing at some point. I went over there to meet up with him, proposed his setup, and told him how good the quality of the roofing job would be, which is accurate, and that the solar system would virtually wipe out his electricity bill, and that I'd get him set up with a 25-year loan to keep his monthly payment down. He agreed to this, was excited to get his roof done, and really didn't care much about the panels, but they were part of the bundle, and on we went. Once everything was installed, I was paid out on my deal and went to cash my $15,000 check. I went to my parents' house and gave them $1,500 each and explained to them what had happened and how I stumbled upon a $15,000 commission check. Just so it's clear, there's nothing shady about what I did. It was way more expensive than it needed to be, and everything was disclosed to him properly. He just paid more than he would have had to, even if he simply shopped around. But at the end of the day, it's well within my rights to charge whatever I want, like it's within the rights of the customer to tell me to F off. A big chunk of what he paid is covered by incentives, but he still paid way more than typical. Moral of the story, especially for contractors, plumbers, electricians, mechanics: don't F people because you're more aware of how things work than they are in a particular field, because you might end up getting F'd over tenfold. And our last story. Here, have some candy. I worked in a low-key office with a great set of coworkers. The managers were a mixed lot, but had a great admin who was the heart of the place. She was very outgoing and liked to joke with us. She kept a glass jar of candy on her desk, and we helped ourselves as we chatted with her. One day, I walked up and took the last piece of candy. "Hey," she said in mock anger, "what are you doing taking all my candy? You better be planning on replacing it." I laughed. "Sure will. But we warned you if you kept food at your desk, it would attract pests." That night, I had an errand and saw a candy store. I went in looking for something unusual. I found it, some obscure gumballs for kids. The gum was designed to dye your mouth as you chewed it. There were warnings on the bag, but not on the individual pieces. I bought enough to fill the jar. After the next few weeks, it was common to go into a meeting and see a normally staid engineer with a purple tongue or green smile. No one seems to have made the connection with the candy jar, or if they did, they didn't want to be the one who spoiled the joke. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.